After a lifetime of silence, I finally get to use my voice to share my story and speak my truth. As a survivor of relentless child abuse, this Docu-Series chronicles my quest to expose the hidden parts of my life that have never been revealed until now.
My mother claimed that I was sick.
A lifetime documentary event.
Gypsy Blanchard is the only victim of Munchausen Syndrome by Proxy who has killed their mother.
She trained me to the bed. She said, "We'll never be happy." He was holding the medications, hospitals, surgeries. There was no end in sight. Sharp scream. I will finally share my story the way that it should be shared.
The Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Coming soon to Lifetime.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lifetime's first virtual press event of 2024. Today, we are excited and honored to have Gypsy Rose Blanchard, her husband, Ryan Anderson, and Emmy-nominated executive producer, Melissa Moore, here to answer your questions. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
All right, let's jump right in. The first question is from Samantha at Decider.com, and it's for Gypsy. Gypsy, you mentioned in the documentary that there are still some questions you have about your story that you need closure on. Are you able to share what those questions are?
Quite honestly, there are questions that I have about the surgeries that I've had. I haven't had a chance to look at my medical records in full detail, and so I think I just have a lot of questions as far as what I had done to me medically. And also just questions to my family about things that happened before I was even born.
Got it. Thank you. This next question is for Melissa, and it's from the journalist at mylifetime.com. Melissa, how did you meet Gypsy and become involved in telling her story?
Well, it actually happened in 2017. Mommy, Dead, and Dearest had just premiered. And when I saw that documentary, I realized this is the beginning of Gypsy's story, that there's so much more to learn. You know, Gypsy just spoke about the medical questions that she has. And so one of the things while doing this documentary was actually getting access to her medical records. So I've probably seen more of the medical records than even Gypsy has on her case, which I'm, wanting to share with Gypsy now. But basically, since 2017, I stayed in contact with Gypsy, and she started to feel comfortable with me, and to the point where she started to reveal secrets and more abuse. And I realized this is maybe the time for her to tell her story. And she agreed. And plus, all of the documentaries and all of the dramatizations were really, the pen was being held by another author than Gypsy. And so I'm really proud that she had the courage to just tell her story in her own way.
That's great. Thanks, Melissa. The next question is for Ryan from Noah Wilson at iHollywood TV. Ryan, what has life been like for you and your wife within her prison release, as you've all been receiving an outpour of support and love from the documentary?
My life after her release has been a whirlwind. It's been great. Everything's moved so fast, but it's been amazing. I've waited for this girl to come out for so long, and now that she's home, it feels great to have her here. The support and everything we've gotten from people has been tremendous. I can't thank people enough for everything. They love this wife. They love my wife just as much as I do. So it's really great. And my life since her release has been tremendous.
Thanks, Ryan. The next question is for Gypsy from Nye McGee at YourWeb. Gypsy, how do you see yourself today, and how has your understanding of your own identity evolved over time?
I see myself today as someone that is just basically trying to come out of prison, start her new life. I know that I have been branded something, and I'm just trying to reinvent myself into something that my family could be proud of, my husband can be proud of. So I think I'm getting there. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but I'm liking this new version of myself.
Great. The next question is also for Gypsy from Mike Jost at Cinema Blend. Watching this documentary, there's an incredible amount of times when family or professionals could have stepped in and removed you from your mother's care, In your opinion, do you have any insight as to why that never happened?
I think a big part of it was there was people that had suspicions, family included, but nobody just wants to rock the boat, so it wasn't brought up to other people. It wasn't talked about. So people kind of kept their suspicions to themselves just for fear of upsetting my mom, and her ultimately pushing them away as friends or whatnot. So I think that on the professional standpoint, I think that for those doctors that did have suspicions, I think it all has to do with money, honestly, and that's my opinion about it. They were making money off of me, and so I think that in their profession, I think that came first.
I remember, Gypsy, we had discussed that CPS came to your house at one point. Remind me about that. Yeah, tell us about that.
So they did come to my house, and basically they were asking me the wrong questions. So they're like, show me your arms, show me your legs, and they were checking for bruises. And at that point, my mom never hit me. They wasn't asking the right questions to me.
So nothing was ever
Nothing
done.
was ever done. Nothing, like, there was no follow-up report or anything. They came the one time, and then they closed the file.
And if I recall from our conversation, this happened in the Habitat for Humanity house on Volunteer Way. Is that, if my memory's right?
Yeah.
One thing that, if I recall, this is just my memory, I think after that incident when CPS came, believe you were telling me your mom became more paranoid about strangers and put garbage bags over the windows.
Right.
You want to tell us about that?
She became like increasingly more paranoid after that visit from CPS, and she actually went as far as to remove the doorbell on the door, because she was just so paranoid about them coming back.
That's crazy.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Melissa, this next question is for you from Valerie Milano at the Hollywood Times. The logistics for producing this must have been tricky. What kind of hurdles did you encounter in putting this together?
Well, thankfully, Chillicothe Correctional Center was very media friendly, I would say. I've worked with a lot of different prisons that will just flat out not be as warm and welcoming, but thankfully the prison was accommodating. I had an hour at a time to talk to Gypsy, and that was it. So I had to be really prepared with my questions, obviously going through security. There's very staunch requirements for how you present yourself to the prison. You can't bring in a cell phone. You can't bring in any kind of comforts to keep track of time, and that you're at their mercy. So you really got to be on your A game and know what questions you want to ask up front. And thankfully, Gypsy's like an open book. She was really easy to talk to. I mean, we could talk for hours. And so it was just multiple visits. And I would say the whole documentary, I think Gypsy, wasn't it like we did 3 in-prison visits, and then we did phone calls almost every Tuesday.
Right.
For a while.
Yeah, we did 3 in-person visits, and then we went ahead and did a recorded call like every week or something like that.
Yeah. So what you're seeing in the documentary is probably like a third of our conversations. I mean, some of them go from, her abuse to just being girlfriends and talking
Girl
about life.
stuff.
Talking about life. And then once in a while, something new will sprinkle in, and I'm like, wait, what, back up. What just happened? That was a little shocking. Let's dive into that. Let's unpack that. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, you guys. Our next question is for Gypsy from Kelly Kearney at Starry Constellation magazine. Gypsy, your story has blanketed the media, and everyone from true crime bloggers to court TV anchors have dissected your case. Why was it important for you to sit down and do these confessionals for the Lifetime series?
I wanted to put out something that was very accurate. I wanted to put out something that was the truth. So much of what has already been put out there was either by people that honestly, they just didn't know the ins and outs of my case or my life. And ultimately, I think that I'm the source. Like, it happened to me. And so no one has the right but me to share my story. And that's why it was important for me to do this docu-series, because I could finally be like, okay, I'm ready. I'm emotionally stable at this point. I don't want to keep being haunted by the past. So this series is me letting go of my past.
And Gypsy, also, there was fictional accounts of your life, and that I think added a lot of confusion and misconceptions about you. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What was the biggest misconception from the dramatized, the fictionalized version of your story?
Honestly, it didn't even have to do with me. It was actually, I haven't watched many, but I have watched at least two. And for me, it was how they portrayed my mom. I think people tend to forget that my mom, or at least maybe they don't even know, that the reason why she was able to snowblind the doctor so much and the community is because she was so friendly. So in these shows, they're portraying her as like mean all the time, and that's not how she was. She was like very charming, very relatable. She would give a hug to anyone. She would like to cook for people. So like her personality was bubbly and friendly to the outside world, and then what you see behind closed doors is her hitting me, calling me names, and the abuse.
Yeah. She let their guard down by just being nice.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Thanks, you guys. The next question is for Ryan. Ryan, this is from the journalist at mylifetime.com. Now that you and Gypsy are finally together in person, what are you most looking forward to about your new life?
There's many things I'm looking forward to in our new life. Just being a normal married couple. Like yesterday we went shopping and it was great. We just walked the store. We had 2 buggies. That was amazing. I wanted Gypsy to feel free to get whatever she wanted, and she got some stuff, and I was like,
I want this, I want that.
Yeah, like it's kind of funny. She actually bought, like, I'm gonna tell them, you bought like a baby clothes for like a future baby. And I was kind of like, we're not there yet. Like, slow down.
It was so cute. I had to get the outfit for just in case later down the road.
So like when we walked through that section, I was like, keep walking,
like,
keep walking,
don't stop.
We're not there yet. But it's just little things like that I'm enjoying. Tonight we plan on cooking again together, and we like doing that together. Just little things like that is what I find most enjoyable.
That's great. I'm glad you guys are having a nice time together.
Sorry, I had
Gypsy, the next question is from Kathy Olson at Forbes. How do you take care of your mental health these days? Is there a wellness routine that you follow?
I just kind of keep to the same thing that I've always done. If I feel if I feel overwhelmed at any point, I will listen to music. It's sort of how I release the anxiety. Is I will close myself off in like a room or a closed space, put on my headphones, and I'll journal for a little bit, or I'll just lay back in my bed and just decompress while listening to any song that I feel like is relatable in that moment. And that's how I relax and I stay mentally sane. And also, like, being married, I can lean on Ryan for a lot of things that maybe if I need to talk and vent, this is my go-to right here.
I'm honored, baby. Thank you.
That's great. The next question is also for Gypsy from Nye McGee at YourWeb. How do you navigate the balance between having your story shared in various forms of media and maintaining control over your narrative and personal journey?
It's really hard because as much control as I'd like to have over my story and how it's shared, I can't control other people. I can control what I do, I can control what I say, but I can't control the narrative outside of myself, unfortunately. I wish I could, because then there wouldn't be any, missteps or confusion, but I can't control the planet. So all I can do is do the best I can.
Absolutely. Ryan, this next question is for you from Sarah at Global News. Do you at all have any reservations about the massive public attention on Gypsy right now? How are you supporting her?
With all the attention she's getting, it's overwhelming some. Gypsy, from the very beginning, I've always told her, if it becomes too much, let me know, and we'll kind of take a step back. But she has told me from the very beginning that, I will let you know I'm a strong woman, and she's very strong. She can handle a lot. And it's one of those where right now we're just enjoying it. We're going along for the ride. But I'm there for her whenever she needs it. It's one of those where, we have a routine when we lay in bed at night, and we converse, we just talk and see what's going on with each other, and we try to work it out. And hasn't been any major issues yet. So it's one of those where, I'm just there for her. Like she said, she leans on me when she needs to, but she's a strong woman, very strong.
Great, thank you. Gypsy, this question is from Noah Wilson at iHollywood TV. Gypsy, were there any of your other family members involved in your life, and do you hold a grudge towards any of them for not removing you from the situation?
My mother isolated me and her from her side of the family, and also my dad's side of the family at a pretty young age for me. So I was probably about 6 years old when she started removing us a little more and moving away from our hometown that we grew up in. I don't hold anything against anyone. I don't hold a grudge. And I've actually told them all that. I'm like, I don't put blame on you guys, because I was 6 years old when she took me from you guys. And I understand that you guys were just as much in the dark as everybody else is.
Mhm.
So I constantly drive that home, that I do not hold a grudge against anyone. My mother was good at manipulating and lies. And that's all there is. There's no blame to be, not to me anyway, that there's no blame to be put on anybody else.
Great, thank you. Melissa, this question is for you. It's from Nadros at salon.com. As an executive producer, Melissa, was it difficult to navigate conveying such personal traumas, especially assault from family members? How does a producer working on a docu-series get parties to speak on this sensitively?
Well, something that we haven't really been talking about is my backstory and the trauma of my father's in prison for life. And that's one of the connecting factors that Gypsy and I had in common, is we both experienced an unimaginable amount of trauma in our lives. And that's that bonded us. So my father's serving multiple life sentences in prison for murder. And there was also fictionalized versions of my dad's story. And so I could relate to Gypsy feeling like everybody is telling their narrative of something deeply personal about yourself. So we can connect with that, but there's no judgment. There was no judgment. Gypsy knew that I would not hold any judgment towards her, because I know what it feels like to be judged. So we just had an open rapport, open book kind of thing with each other. I think we just connected because we both understand what it's like to live a unique and dark past. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Gypsy, this question is for you from Amanda at In Touch and Life and Style. How have you been enjoying your freedom? Who have you spent your time with? What meals have you had? And what places have you visited?
Okay, that's a lot. Who I've been spending my time with? Well, obviously I've been spending it with my husband. I've spent some time with his family, my dad's side of the family, so my stepmom and my dad and my sister. Things that I've eaten. Oh my gosh. I tried fried zucchini, which was really cool. I'm starting to get out of my comfort zone with food, and ate fried fish last night for the first time. We went over to his mom's house, and that was a lot of fun. Places I visited. So New York City. So that I just came back from New York, and we just came back from New York, and it was amazing.
That was awesome.
It's
really fun.
Such an amazing trip.
Yeah, Central Park was great.
Oh,
yeah. We had a good time.
Yeah.
That's great, you guys. This is a question for both of you from the journalists at Lifetime. What has it been like with this sudden onset of fame? What is the most challenging and also the most rewarding part?
The most challenging is when they take comments out of context and they run with it, and people make TikTok videos about something that I might have said and took it the wrong way. That's the most challenging is everything you say is under a microscope. And it's one of those where I'm not used to that. You know, I'm just a Southern boy from Louisiana. So that's challenging to me. You know, I just happen to fall into marrying the most beautiful woman in the world. So it's just one of those things where I feel overwhelmed sometimes with everything they say. The most rewarding is just being with her.
And for me, like I'm just coming out of prison for 8.5 years, and everyone's well aware of my story before that. So I'm very new to social media. And I'm on a learning curve right now. So when I comment or even like someone's post, I have to realize that it will be seen by millions of people. And the rewarding side is I have this huge platform which I can use for good. It's kind of like a superpower. Calm
down there. Calm down.
On the downside, there's people making fake accounts in my name, scamming people. There's a rumor going around that I'm pregnant, which is not true at all. It's so much, so many eyes on us right now that it is a little overwhelming. And so, like Ryan said, we are taking the time at night to just vent, because we need to have those releases of stress.
Right. You know, I mean, you're not pregnant, but you're buying baby clothes, which is kind of like,
because it was cute. It was a cute little outfit.
Just playing, baby. Just playing.
Thanks, you guys. The next question is for Gypsy. It's from Mark Berman from Programming Insider. Gypsy, given everything that happened to you, how were you able to handle being in prison? Were you always optimistic you would be paroled? And how difficult was it to keep the faith?
I think that I've always been fairly optimistic. I think the only time that I was ever not optimistic about my fate was while I was in county jail. And I talk about that in both my ebook and the documentary, how, you know, I lost faith at one point, and it was really grim. But then as soon as I knew that I was going to be spending 10 years in prison and getting out of prison fairly young, I started having faith again. And my personality is pretty bubbly. I'm a glass half full type of person. So I always just had the faith that it was going to be okay at some point.
Absolutely.
I remember, Gypsy, one of the interviews that I did with you in prison, you had just had a nightmare that you weren't going to get paroled. And trying to talk to you about, well, maybe you will, like, get
me back up. Well, you know, two of my friends in prison had their parole hearings before me, and they had gotten bad news. Like, they had both didn't get paroled, which it wasn't a good setup for my confidence into me getting paroled.
I remember that. I had to keep lifting you, like Melissa said. Yeah, you just keep lifting her up and keeping that positivity.
Yeah.
And I remember that we would sit on the phone and kind of go over some questions we thought they would ask you, the parole board.
Yeah, I remember that.
What if they ask you this?
It was like a mock parole hearing.
Yeah, it was homework.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hard parts is that Gypsy, you know, while she is the principal of this documentary, over these course of years, I've just become really good friends with her. And so I've truly invested in her future and her happiness and her success. And I feel like sometimes that's a fine line, because there's times where I'm like, as a friend, you know, that's a different, you know, I want to give her advice as a friend. And then there's also the producer where I have to like take a step back and remove myself. It's been a wonderful journey together.
That's a good segue into the next question for you, Melissa, from mylifetime.com. What has been the most rewarding part of getting to tell Gypsy's story?
Well, I met Gypsy 7 years ago. And when I first met her, she was just starting to come into her own. She had gone through the initial, I would say, trauma of going to jail, getting acclimated to prison, becoming, I guess, learning how to become friends with people in prison. I remember she told me she would go up to people and say, "Do you want to be my friend?" I learned a lot about her prison experience and her becoming a woman in prison, really. I mean, some of the things that she discovered, it was kind of a coming of age story in prison, but I got the front seat and watched her become her own independent woman throughout these years, which made it actually really difficult when she decided to get married. Because at the very beginning, Gypsy knows what I'm going to say. Gypsy knows
I know
what
where this is
I know
going.
you're going. Okay. At the very beginning, I had a vision for her future as a friend, which was Gypsy coming out of prison, a free woman for the very first time. She had been imprisoned by her mother. She had been in prison, literal prison. And now I wanted to see her unencumbered and untangled and going into the world as a free woman for the very first time. And so when she told me she was getting married, I had a very difficult time, Ryan. Sorry. I had a very
I
difficult
know.
time.
I get it. I get it. You weren't the only
And I
one. You
told her,
weren't the only
please
one.
don't get married. And then it was a learning lesson for me, because one thing about Gypsy is she's a very intelligent woman, and she knows what's best for her. And I had to remember that we all have our own intuition and our own guide. And she modeled that for me, that she knew what's best for her, and that my role is to support her going into the future, making the choices that she feels is best for her life. So I came around, but I want to protect her like everybody. I think we all feel that unity as a country, as a world, for protecting Gypsy because of what she's endured. So we all are rooting for her and cheering her on. And I mean, you've had enough heartache for 5 lifetimes. I don't want her to have any more.
And she won't with me. Just saying.
The next question is from Mike Jost at Cinema Blend, and it's for Gypsy. Gypsy, there are lots of convention photos of you dressed as Star Wars and Harry Potter characters. Did your experience and what you were going through impact your love of those franchises in any way? And is cosplay something you hope to get back into?
A little bit. I'm not gonna lie, a little bit. I think that, like, looking at old pictures of me wearing different costumes and stuff, even though the interest is there, I can't help but have like a small part of me that still feels like when I put on a costume, I'm put back in that time. And that's just something that I'm gonna have to work through with a therapist. I still have a lot of triggers that they might be extremely subtle. So that's actually could potentially be one of them. That's definitely not on the extreme side, but on the subtle side of the trauma that happened.
I want to add to that. I think you're right. She probably wore those cosplay outfits and costumes to get out of the current life she was living with her mother. So it was like an escape.
Right.
And I think she loves who she is now as a woman, as a person.
And I'm more confident now.
Right. So I guess she's right. When she puts on that costume, she's escaping a good life that she has now. So she probably might not want to do it as much.
Right.
So I could see that.
Even though I've got a major interest in all of, cosplay and everything, it's beautiful to look at. But I don't feel the need to change my identity. Whereas before I felt the need to change my identity.
To escape. Absolutely.
Thank you. Gypsy, this question is from Isaac at TV Insider. What do you want people to get out of the series and hearing your side of the story?
I really want people to just watch the series and feel like they have a better understanding of who I am as a person, what I've gone through, who I am now, and how I had to get to where I am now by going through some really hard things that were even after the crime and getting arrested and everything. because I spent 8.5 years in prison. So that was a long time for me to at least make some mistakes, learn from them. And I think people just kind of need to see me as, okay, I'm just a person. I'm not a character from a TV show. So how there's evolution within me. There's evolution even going on right now. So I hope they get that from the series. I hope they also look at my story and also take from it that this could happen to anyone. And Munchausen by proxy syndrome is far greater than what people might think. So the numbers, there's no way to calculate the numbers, but it's not talked about enough. So go talk about it, talk about my story, and realize that, hey, if you see something that just seems a little bit off, whenever you see a child and they might be in a situation where you're like, that just doesn't seem right to me, say something. Like, what's the worst that could happen?
It's hard to do, but you can do it.
Thanks, Gypsy. The next question is for you from Paige Skinner at Huffington Post. What do you think about Gen Z being so obsessed with you and your newfound social media fame?
I'm coming into this just like brand new. I feel like I'm a new baby bird on the internet. I'm like, I don't even know how to do all of the emojis. But I think it's great. And I think that, they relate to me in a sense because I'm coming out and experiencing things for the first time. So in many ways, things that I'm doing now, I should have been doing when I was like 16. And I'm just doing it now for the first time. So I think maybe I'm a little bit more relatable in that sense. And I think we all kind of feel the need to want to be loved and seen for who we are. So I think that that's the appeal about me is I'm learning about my identity while Gen Z is learning about theirs too.
I also want to say that your case is probably one of the very first cases for Gen Z to really understand that the world isn't a fair place. I think that's why your case became so, so famous, is because for my generation, it was the O.J. Simpson case. That was the trial of the century. We followed it. I think your case was the equivalent to Gen Z because they were just coming to know the world, and they saw for the first time that the world is unfair and that you went to prison. A lot of people have come up to me, a lot of Gen Z folks have come up to me and expressed that, and that their interest in following Gypsy is that the scale of justice did her wrong, but they're hoping that the scale of life does her right.
Yeah, I feel the same.
I like that.
Definitely. Gypsy, this is a question from Noah from iHollywood TV. Gypsy, how has life in prison changed you as a person, as you have stated that you want to take your 6 million followers, I believe you actually have more now, and do advocacy work?
Prison definitely showed me maturity. Getting to prison, I was just so green and new to everything. And also I was in my 20s. So I think I was trying to live my wild days in prison, and then come out a respectable adult. And, coming out and having this massive amount of social media followers, gives a segue so I can start working on my advocacy work, and bring more awareness to mental health issues, sexual abuse, physical abuse, because it's like I feel like I've experienced a little bit of everything. So I definitely want to share what I have gained in wisdom, and guidance. Just be a guiding light for anyone who feels like they just are in a hopeless, helpless place.
Thank you. The next question is for you, Gypsy, from TV Insider. What have you been watching since you've been catching back up on regular life?
Honestly, we haven't watched a lot of TV. We've been so busy lately.
So busy.
Acclimating to normal life. I've got a lot going on.
We have a lot of shows that we want to watch.
Yeah, we have a lot of shows we want to watch. I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I wanted to watch Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I watched the first episode of that. We played Stranger Things, like the first episode of Stranger Things. But I definitely like there's so much I want to watch.
We're trying to hit it all. I mean,
Yeah,
like, we're
it's
trying.
gonna take so long to binge watch everything that I want to watch.
Yeah, 'cause she wants to catch up on things she missed a long time ago too.
I'm more into like the fantasy sci-fi
Mhm.
types of movies and TV shows.
Thank you. This next question is for Gypsy and Melissa. We know you have a book coming out that you guys co-wrote. Can you please tell us a little bit about that?
Gypsy, you could take the floor first.
Okay, I'll go first. So this ebook is not a retelling of events like in the documentary. This is more of like a reflection of everything that I have gone through. It's deeply personal. I share things and stories that I guess just didn't have a place for anywhere else. So it was a format to where I could just fully be myself and be open about whatever I wanted to talk about and what I wanted to share with readers. And Melissa is an amazing person to help me on this project. So Melissa, do you want to take the floor now?
Sure. So as the executive producer on the documentary, I mean, 6 hours, we tell Gypsy's story, but really we could tell it in 40, we could tell it in 50. Like there's so much more that I wanted to share. There was things that happened to Gypsy just before her release. One thing that we cover in the book is that a fan had actually caused Gypsy to go to solitary confinement. And that was just before her parole. That was a very traumatic experience for Gypsy. And when you're crafting a documentary, we have a limited amount of time and we want to focus on the major points that are leading to Gypsy's release. And there really wasn't a place for that other than this book for this ebook. And so in the ebook, we talk about how a fan, the prison was alerted by a fan's comment on Facebook, and unbeknownst to Gypsy, she is pulled aside randomly and put into solitary confinement. And we go over the story, but this was just before her her notification of her parole. And that was, I mean, Gypsy wasn't, I mean, I would say that was one of the most traumatic prison
It was traumatizing because I kept asking, why am I in solitary? I haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah, and they wouldn't tell her. So there's details of that in there, but there's also drawings and musings, things that are very deeply personal to Gypsy and centered on her mindset that I felt like really had the best place in a book.
That's amazing. And that's out today, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Just got released today.
I'm excited about it.
That's
It's a great
great, you
book.
guys.
Great book.
Oh yeah.
Another question for Gypsy. Once your probation is over, what are some of the things you're hoping to do that you're currently not able to?
Travel.
Yeah, I have a very strict travel restrictions. Anytime that I need to leave the state or want to leave the state, I have to get permission from my parole officer. And thankfully, he was able to let me go to New York this last week. But that will be one out of, maybe only a handful for this year. So I'm not able to do that a lot. So whenever I'm off parole, I want to go to Europe. I want to go to Rome. I want to go to Switzerland. Shoot. I want to go
London,
everywhere.
England.
But yeah, just travel, be able to just have no restrictions as far as travel or worrying about my parole. And
Just have that freedom.
Yeah, complete freedom.
Yep. Nobody telling her what she has to do or
no one to answer to.
right.
That'll be great. I think everyone's excited for you for that. The next question is from Carolyn from Insider. Gypsy, you've spoken out about reluctantly embracing your fame, and you've also called out people like Bachelorette star Josh Sider of attempting to use your notoriety for their own fame. Now that you've been released, are you concerned about people using you for their 15 minutes of fame?
You see that I don't think that I'm concerned. I think that I have it under control because I think I have a good judgment of who is trying to do that and who is not. I'm a pretty good judge of people's intentions. And so if I see even the most slightest thing that I feel like they're using me for fame, I cut communication off. Because my friends, my family, unless they are asked to participate, like in the Docu-Series, I asked them to participate in the Docu-Series, and they said okay. But my friends and family that are true to me don't blast. I'm friends with Gypsy Blanchard. I know Gypsy Blanchard. They don't do that.
Right.
They're very quiet. And in fact, when they post a picture of us together, a lot of the comments are like, I didn't know you knew Gypsy Blanchard.
Right.
I didn't know you was related to her. So that's how I can distinguish, okay, they're here for the right reasons.
And Gypsy has a lot of people taking care of, watching out.
Oh
and,
yeah, my
and
stepmom's, she's a bulldog.
Yeah,
she's very protective.
There's
And
a lot.
Melissa's
Very protective. I mean, Gypsy has a great
And Mia,
support.
and Mia. I feel
And
like I
Mia.
have my equal in Mia.
Yeah, I think you do.
Yeah, Mia grilled me pretty hard on the
Yeah,
documentary.
she did.
But yeah, Gypsy, people are on the watch. Like
Mhm.
people protect her, and which is great.
That's great. Ryan, this question is for you. What do your students think of your new wife, and are you just the coolest teacher ever?
I feel like I am the coolest teacher ever.
Regardless
but
of
that's
me.
just me. You know, due to my past experience of losing a job with just, you know, her being my fiance and stuff, I'm very careful of who I tell, especially students. You know, I haven't been back to school since it's been out that, you know, my wife's been released. So I'm kind of curious. I remember this fall, a couple students saw that I was married to her and they were very cool. You know, they come up to me and ask a couple of questions and I was kind of like, keep it hush hush. Because I do worry about that. I've had that experience before where it ended up costing me my job.
Mhm.
But you know, right now I'm getting outcries of support and teachers are reaching out to me and telling me congratulations. And so the past experience made me do my current school. I was open and honest with faculty and everything and my boss. And so there, it was no secret of who I was married to. So it's one of those where they've been great and supportive. And I feel like I'm the coolest teacher ever. That's
I
just,
think you are.
that's just me.
But I'm biased, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I bet you are.
I feel I am.
Gypsy, this question is from Samantha at Decider. Gypsy, you've really become a celebrity lately. Have any other famous people reached out to you via social media, aka slid into your DMs? And are you able to name any of them for us?
Yeah, I mean, I have just actually checked my DMs like 2 nights ago. I just want to say that I don't consider myself a celebrity. I don't like the term celebrity. I like either well known. I think well known or public figure would probably be best to describe me. Because I consider celebrities to be actors, actresses, and singers. And I don't fit into those categories. But yeah, there has been some, you know, celebrities that has reached out. Elizabeth Smart actually reached out to me and I sent her a message back just telling her that I think, or, you know, I knew of her story a long time ago. I think that she's an inspirational woman. And I definitely think that she's a great role model for me to follow. Because she took her situation that was, you know, a bad situation and she made a wonderful person out of herself in spite of it. So
thank you. Gypsy, another question from iHollywood TV. Did you ever suspect that your mother was lying to you about your health issues?
Of course I had my suspicions because obviously there was things that I knew that I didn't have wrong with me, and then there was other things that I didn't know to the fullest extent. So there was times that I would question, I'm like, do I really need this medication? Do I really need this? I would think to myself. So yeah, I did have my little doubts.
Something that people ask me all the time is, why do people go to like, why didn't you ask your dad how old you were or something like that? And I don't think people realized they didn't understand that you didn't have a relationship with your dad at that point. But I remember asking you, how did you not know your age? How did your mom hide your age from you? And I remember you telling me that she never put the right number of candles on your cake. Remind me of that,
Yeah,
about
so,
how she hid your age from you.
Yeah, so, it was happening. It probably started happening when I was about 8 years old. And so I didn't ask questions as an 8-year-old. But it continued on until, the crime happened. And so I get that question a lot, actually, like, how did you not know your age? And growing up, for birthday parties and for, gatherings, my mom never put numbered candles on my cake.
You also change your birthday.
Yes,
Like all the forms. And
yeah,
stuff.
I mean, things that was going on, I never asked for clarification because my mom handled all kinds of medical paperwork. There was never a need for me to know the exact date. And so finding out that I was older than I thought was a little bit of a shock to me after everything. And now I feel like, oh, I went from 19 to 32. Geez, God, I got old so quick. How did that happen?
You never went to school either.
That's true. You didn't go to school, so there wasn't, this lineage of school pictures to follow.
Right, exactly.
I think that I still can't wrap my head around that you only went to school up till second grade. And that you are so intelligent and articulate, and that you can write and read at the level that you do is phenomenal to me.
Yeah. And it was a lot of hard work for me. Getting my education was something that I prioritized, and I worked and worked and worked. There was times that I wanted to give up. I'm like, I'm never gonna get this. And then I finally started picking it up, and I'm shout out to prison for giving me my education. Who would have thought?
Well, that, the people talk about how the medical community failed you. I see that the school system failed you, because there should have been checks and balances from you being homeschooled all these years to see if you would pass state tests or pass certain tests, or that there was a board or like members to come to your house to make sure that you truly are getting a homeschool education. But that was never done.
I'm actually really shocked that never happened. I remember the doctors saying, oh, is she in school? And my mom would say, oh, she's homeschooled. We have her, we're registered. And there was no questions more about it. So I'm actually just finding out that, it's illegal to not put your kids in school. Right. I'm like, that's a thing? Why didn't anybody say anything? Because I didn't know that.
Thank you. Gypsy, are there any misconceptions about what being in prison is actually like?
I think that there is this giant misconception that being in prison, it's like jail, because while you're in jail, it's small cells. All you do is sleep in your bunk all the time. You eat, you sleep, and that's it. But prison is a world within a world. There are jobs in prison. There's education in prison. There, inmates that are serving life without parole sentences have to make a living somehow with their lives. They can't just sleep all the time. So it's funny because there would be things that, times that I would be busy that Ryan would want me to call him. And I'm like, well, I've got this going on. I've got this going on. So the world doesn't stop for the inmate when you go to prison. It's just, it becomes different. It's different than total freedom.
And you also surprised me when I asked you to describe your cell, and it sounded to me more like a college dorm.
It did, because it's like we had a bunk bed on this side, a bunk bed on this side, a nice little table in the middle. We had keys to our rooms.
That was a
microwave.
Yeah, a microwave. Yeah, and In the wing, we had 2 microwaves. If you lived on the honor dorm, you got to have big round tables in the day room with board games and things like this for us to do. Yeah, if you live on the honor wing, I call it the penthouse of prison. It's really nice.
And you live there.
And I lived there for a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was really surprising to me because I was thinking the same thing, that it would be just a metal toilet, a
That's
cot
only in
like that.
segregation.
I know that now, but I was surprised you had a microwave, like, and you had access to like cook all your food, which makes sense for now when you're living in your beautiful apartment, that you have to learn how to use your stove.
I know.
One
I'm
thing
still
that
working on it.
one thing that surprised me, Gypsy, is when you told me that you got the apartment and you're like, and the refrigerator has an ice and water maker in it. If I take a picture and post it, would that be bragging?
Right. I was so happy to have a ice and water maker in the fridge.
Yeah. Yep.
Gypsy, have you given any thought to what your next step will be in terms of a career? Are you interested in a 9-to-5 job? And if so, what would you choose?
Right now my life is way too hectic for a 9-to-5.
Right.
Going forward, I think that, I might get a little bored not having a day-to-day job. So I might want to have one. Right now I'm not wanting one, not wanting to take that on. But I think a couple months down the road, I just might. Career-wise, what I might want to get into, I like to do people's hair. I like to do makeup. I'm a total girly girl. So, I might want to do something in retail, at a shop that I really like and enjoy. Also, I might get discounts, which would be cool. So yeah, eventually, just not right now.
Opportunities are endless.
Yeah.
This is our last question. Gypsy, what are your hopes for the future, both personally and in terms of the message or impact your story can have on others in difficult situations?
Personal goals right now are just having a lot of family time, making amends with those that were really hurt by not only the crime, but also learning that the people that they knew, meaning my mom and I before I got arrested in my crime, were not real. They weren't real people. It was a fraud, and we weren't those people. So now coming out, I just want to make amends with those people and show them who I am, and kind of like reintroduce myself to these people that I knew from before. And they're having to learn me now. Quality time with family, quality time with friends, learning how to cook with my mother-in-law and Christy, being a good wife, like improving myself as a wife, are all personal goals for me right now. I think professional wise, aside from that 9-to-5, I think that I will always be Gypsy Blanchard to the media, but I think that I am putting the Gypsy Blanchard that people knew from several years ago in the past. And I think going forward, I am married, so I'm now going forward as Gypsy Rose Blanchard Anderson. And what that means for me is, okay, reinventing myself as a new person. All right, the prison Gypsy is over.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is the new Gypsy, and let's form this new identity for me and see what I can do. See the power of my voice. I've already used the power to share my story for myself. Let's see if I can share maybe other people's stories and give them a voice.
Voice of the voiceless, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Gypsy, Ryan, and Melissa, for being here today. We really appreciate your time. For
Sure.
everyone listening, the Prison Confessions of Gypsy Rose Blanchard will re-air on Lifetime Friday from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It will also be on the Lifetime app and mylifetime.com until February 6th. And don't forget Gypsy's ebook, Conversations on the Eve of Freedom, is also available today wherever ebooks are sold. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.